The room goes quiet, but the sentence gets louder. The call has ended. The screen has gone dark. And suddenly one casual comment is sitting in the middle of the room like it weighs more than it did 5 minutes ago. Maybe it was a small pause before they answered. Maybe it was the way they said, "Yeah, that makes sense." Maybe it was a joke you made that got a shorter laugh than expected. Nothing dramatic happened. No one accused you of anything. The conversation moved on. And still, after it is over, your brain keeps working as if there is one loose thread it cannot leave alone. That is the strange part. While the conversation was happening, there was plenty to track. The other person's voice, the timing of replies, your own words, the background noise, the next thing you were trying to say. But when the stimulation drops, all that motion disappears. The room gets still. The phone gives you nothing new. And with fewer cues coming in, one leftover cue can start to sound unusually important. Silence does not always calm the mind. Sometimes it gives the mind more space to private retelling. And private retelling has a way of changing the size of things. A sentence that was probably ordinary begins to feel coded. A facial expression that lasted half a second starts to feel like evidence. A delay in their response becomes something to solve. Not because you are weak, or too sensitive, or secretly looking for trouble. Often it happens because the brain dislikes unfinished meaning, especially in social moments where belonging, approval, or embarrassment might be involved. So it asks again, did that land wrong? Did I say too much? Were they annoyed? Did everyone notice? The feeling can be so convincing because it arrives privately after the public moment has already ended. No one else is in the room to balance it. No fresh tone of voice comes in to soften it. No new expression arrives to correct the guess. There is only the memory. And the memory has suddenly become the loudest thing available. But that loudness is not proof. A private retelling is not always a warning that something went wrong. Sometimes, it is the mind trying to finish what still feels unclear. It is taking a moment that ended on the outside and continuing to work on it on the inside, searching for shape, certainty, and relief. The next question is quieter, but important. What does that invisible afterglow look like in ordinary life when no one else can see it but you? The strange part is how ordinary it looks from the outside. You are walking away from a group dinner with your coat half-zipped, still tasting mint from the little candy by the register. The sidewalk is damp. Someone laughs behind you at another table. Your phone is in your hand, but nothing is happening on it. No message, no correction, no obvious sign that the night went wrong. And still, one small moment keeps lighting up. Not the whole dinner, not every story, just one pause after you said something, one glance across the table, one reply that arrived later than usual and said, "Yes, no worries," with no warmth you can prove, but also no coldness you can prove. That is what makes it so sticky. There is not enough evidence to solve it, but there is just enough detail to keep touching it. You look at the dark phone screen and catch your own reflection, instead of a notification. You open the thread anyway. You reread 5 words, as if the missing exclamation point is a door you can unlock. At the time, the reply barely registered. Now it seems to have edges. Now the pause has a shape. Now the glance feels like it might have meant something. Outside, life has become simpler. The restaurant noise is gone. The overlapping voices are gone. No one is passing plates or changing the subject. But inside, the opposite happens. The quieter the world gets, the louder one cue becomes. And because the feeling is strong, it can start to feel shared. A private tightness in your chest begins to act like public evidence. You picture the other person revisiting the same sentence. You imagine them remembering your face, your timing, the exact way you laughed after you realized your joke did not land. The moment feels visible because you can feel it so clearly. But feeling exposed is not the same as being studied. Most people leave ordinary conversations, carrying their own loose threads. Their parking validation, their tired feet, the thing they said too quickly, the message they forgot to answer, The silence you are treating like a public story may have barely become a memory for them. This does not make your reaction foolish. It makes it human. The mind is built to notice social friction, especially when a clue is unclear. Once the room gets quiet, attention can lean too hard on the one detail that remains, making it seem larger than the evening it came from. So if one tiny cue has ever followed you out of a room, that does not mean the room followed you too. Private tension can feel like public attention, but the two are not the same. The next question is why attention chooses that cue, and what happens when it has nowhere else to land. One small cue can feel enormous when it is the only thing left in the room. During the conversation itself, your brain is not listening to words alone. It is running a whole social dashboard at once. There is the sentence someone said, the speed of their reply, the smile that arrived half a second late, the way their eyes moved toward the door, the tone that softened, the tone that did not soften, and the small question of what all of it might mean. Most of the time, that tracking happens in the background. You are answering and nodding and laughing, and choosing your next words, noticing whether the other person seems with you or somewhere else. The brain is comparing many cues at the same time, so no single clue has to carry the whole truth. Then the conversation ends. The face is gone. The tone is gone. The moving context is gone. There are no new expressions to update the story. No fresh sentence arrives to soften the old one. No one says, "Actually, I meant that kindly." So attention does what attention often does when the world gets quieter. It lands on whatever is still glowing. That might be one pause, one glance, one flat yes, one moment when your own joke did not get the reaction you expected. This is the mechanism. When stimulation drops, attention has fewer places to go, so it can start leaning too hard on the cue that remains. That is attention bias in ordinary language. Not that the cue is fake, not that you imagined it from nothing, just that the mind has taken one piece of evidence and made it feel heavier than the rest of the conversation. This is why fear of being judged can make the private retelling sharper. When a clue is unclear, the brain may treat it like a possible threat. Not a physical threat, but a social one. Being judged, being rejected, being misunderstood, being the person who said the wrong thing without realizing it. So the mind scans the leftover moment again, looking for certainty. Was that pause irritation? Was that smile polite? Was that silence disappointment? And because the feeling is happening inside you so loudly, it can start to feel as if it must be happening outside you too. That is the spotlight effect. Your private tension expands until it feels public. The room in memory starts behaving like an audience, even though the actual people in that room may have moved on to traffic and dinner and laundry and another message, another thought. The important thing is that this reaction is not a character flaw. It is a prediction system trying to protect you with incomplete information. It is self-monitoring, turned up too high after the live evidence has disappeared. So when the memory gets loud, the question is not, what final truth is this proving? A better question is, which cue is my attention overweighting right now? Because a loud memory is often not a public story. It is one unfinished cue holding too much weight, because the rest of the room has gone quiet. That is why the next section can prove it. Inside one ordinary example, some moments do not private retelling because they were dramatic. They private retelling because they did not close. You leave a meeting with no obvious problem. 6 faces on a screen, one shared document, the tiny mute icon flashing on and off. You make a comment about the plan. Someone smiles for half a second, then looks down. The meeting moves on. No one objects. Nothing in the transcript would look important. But 10 minutes later, while you are rinsing a cup or waiting for the elevator, that one expression opens again in your mind. The brain treats unclear social moments differently from finished ones. A clear insult may hurt, but at least it has shape. A clear compliment can be received, repeated, maybe stored away. The harder moments are the ones with missing punctuation. Nice job can feel warm if the tone lands clearly. But if it comes with a pause, or a glance away, or a smile that seems a little too flat, the mind may keep turning it over. Was it sincere? Was it polite? Did they mean the work was good, or just better than expected? The words are simple. The uncertainty is not. The same thing happens with a joke. In the room, people laugh, but one person's laugh arrives half a beat late. Later, the scene reopens. Not the whole conversation, just that tiny delay. The brain trims away the ordinary parts and leaves the strange part glowing. Or a text reply comes back 2 hours later with only "yeah, sure." No exclamation point, no extra sentence, no visible anger either. Just 3 small words, sitting on a bright screen like they are asking to be decoded. One unread message from someone else waits above it, but the mind keeps choosing this one. The example matters, because it shows how little evidence the brain actually needs to keep working. It is not always searching for truth. Often it is searching for closure. Unfinished goals, interrupted tasks, and unresolved meanings tend to stay active in the background, because the mind is built to complete patterns. Social life gives it plenty of half patterns. A face changes too quickly. A reply is too short. A compliment feels slightly odd. A room goes quiet before the meaning settles. So the brain reopens the tab. Not because the tab is dangerous, because it is incomplete. And when stimulation drops, that incomplete tab has more space to make noise. No new voices, no new expressions, no fresh information coming in. Just the old cue, enlarged by silence. That is why memory private retelling can feel so convincing. It gives the impression that the moment must matter, because it is still active. But activity is not evidence. A browser can keep a page open long after the useful part is gone. So before the next section, hold on to this softer interpretation. An unfinished social moment is not automatically a warning. Sometimes it is only a sentence without a period. The feeling is real, but the public story is still unfinished. The most useful moment is often the one that feels least useful. It is that small drop after the sound ends. The call is over. The group chat has gone still. The hallway door closes behind you, and suddenly one expression, one pause, one sentence begins to glow brighter than everything around it. Your brain wants to do something with that feeling quickly. It wants to turn it into a headline. They were annoyed. I sounded strange. That changed something. This is the usable second. Catch the moment before the feeling turns into a conclusion. The goal is not to talk yourself out of caring. You are allowed to care. Social cues matter. Tone matters. Belonging matters. The calmer move is to slow the moment down just enough to sort it. Interrupt. Name. Widens. Evidence. Interrupt means you gently break the private retelling before it becomes the whole room. Not with a command to calm down, but with a noticing sentence. My brain is trying to finish something unclear. That small sentence gives you a little distance. You are no longer only inside the worry. You are watching the worry take shape. Then name the cue. Keep it plain. They answered with 3 words. They looked at the floor. Their smile came late. They did not react to the last thing you said. That is what happened. Not the meaning yet. Just the visible piece. This matters, because anxiety often attaches a caption so quickly that the cue and the story feel identical. Then widen. Ask what else could belong to the same moment. A short reply can mean distance, but it can also mean someone was tired and busy and distracted, and trying not to over-explain, or simply being brief. A pause can mean judgment, but it can also mean someone was choosing words, checking a notification, or missing the timing. A flat face on a video call can mean disapproval, or it can mean a bad connection and a long day. Widening is not pretending nothing matters. It is refusing to let one cue act like a complete report. Then look for evidence. What do you actually know, outside the feeling? Did they say they were upset? Did their behavior change over time? Is there a pattern, or only one strange second in a noisy day? If the evidence is thin, the conclusion can stay unfinished. You do not have to file it as danger just because your body reacted first. This is where relief becomes usable. The feeling is real. The public story is not. Your nervous system may be responding to uncertainty, not truth. And the spotlight effect can make your private tension feel far more public than it is. Most people are not revisiting your sentence with the same force. They are already inside their own unfinished moments. So the next time the room goes quiet, let the cue remain a cue. Let the story wait. The room is smaller than the version your brain builds in the silence. From there, the next move is simple. Let the conversation stay its actual size. The relief begins when the private retelling stops being treated like evidence. The phone is still dark. The room is still quiet. Nothing outside has changed. But now that same silence can mean something different. It does not have to mean everyone is secretly reviewing what you said. It does not have to mean the pause was a public story, or the short reply was a clue, or the small shift in someone's face was the part you finally noticed too late. It may only mean that the conversation ended before your brain felt finished with it. And that is the smaller, kinder version of the story. Your brain keeps working after the stimulation drops because it is trying to protect, predict, and complete meaning. It wants to protect you from rejection. It wants to predict what might happen next. It wants to complete the part of the exchange that did not settle cleanly. But those efforts can make one ordinary moment feel larger than the life around it. So the useful move is not to argue with the feeling until it disappears. It is to give the conversation back its actual size. One sentence, one pause, one look, one unanswered message. Not a whole courtroom, not a whole audience, not a complete story about who you are. Maybe the moment was awkward. Maybe you did miss a cue. Maybe someone was tired or distracted or hungry, or rushed, or already thinking about their own next problem. Human moments are often uneven without being meaningful in the way fear suggests. A conversation can have a loose edge without hiding a disaster inside it. So when the room goes still again, and the mind reaches for the private retelling, you can notice the rush without handing it the final word. You can say, quietly, "This is my brain trying to finish something." That does not mean the world is still watching it with me. The call ended. The screen went dark. The room stayed quiet. And this time, the quiet does not have to turn the memory into a trial. Private tension is not public attention. It is only your brain asking for one more pass at a moment that was probably smaller than it felt. The durable lens is simple. Private tension is not the same thing as public attention, and one steadier question can stop a feeling from becoming a harsh public story too quickly. Carry forward one calmer question. What actually happened, and what part of the story arrived from the feeling itself? That matters, because a smaller first interpretation gives the room a chance to stay human.